Question number 4. The government introduces a tax incentive program in which the first $5,000 of savings can be tax deferred. Draw the resulting budget constraint that illustrates the trade-off between current and future consumption. So here we need to draw again. So this is question number 4. So we need a coordinate system where on the y-axis we have future consumption, and on the x-axis we have current consumption. So here it's current consumption, and here it's future consumption. So as it is always the case with budget constraints, we first need to find out what the intercepts are. So if we fully consume our income in the first period, we can simply, we do not have to pay any taxes at all, and we can simply consume everything in the current period. So let's say Y denotes our income. So let's say Y is our income. Then what you would have is that in the maximum amount that we could currently consume is Y. Yeah, so think of Y as some strictly positive number. Now what we need to find out is what are the taxes, or what is the maximum amount of future consumption that I can have. Okay, so here we need to consider that there is a deduction of $5,000 on the first, there's a deduction of $5,000 on the savings that we can deduct. So the first $5,000 that we are saving, we do not have to pay taxes. At least we don't have to pay taxes now for this $5,000. So therefore, the maximum amount, so maximum amount of consumption in the future is given by the following. So on the remaining amount of the income, which is Y minus 5,000, we simply pay the taxes. Yeah, so taxes on savings. So this would be Y minus 5,000 times 1 plus R times 1 minus the taxes. So let's say R is the interest rate, and let's say T1 are taxes on interest rate. So then we have Y minus 5,000 times 1 plus R times 1 minus T1. So this is kind of the amount of consumption that I can have in the future if I save my income that I had in the first period minus the amount of 1 plus R. And this is the maximum amount of money that we can consume in the future. Yeah, so for the first $5,000 that we save, we do not pay any taxes, so we can get the full return on them. For Y minus 5,000, we only get the interest rate minus the taxes that we have to pay. So yeah, let me just try to draw it here. So the intercept then would be Y minus 5,000 times 1 plus R times 1 minus T1. Hope you can still read it. Yeah, let me just do it a little bit different. So let me just write it down here. So there is a multiplication here. So then we have 1 plus R times 1 minus T1. And then we add to this 5,000 times 1 plus R. And yeah, the intercept will be somewhere, I don't know, will be somewhere here. And there is one other thing that we need to consider in that the slope of this budget constraint is changing depending on how much we are saving. So y minus 5,000 is a point where there is a change in the relative price of future consumption, so between future consumption and current consumption, because after we save 5,000, if we save more than $5,000, we have to pay taxes before we don't have to pay taxes. So there will be kind of a kink. I will try to draw it somehow that you can see it. So up to 5,000, up to y minus 5,000, the budget constraint will be steeper because in this area, it's cheaper to shift current consumption to future consumption, so to consume more in the future relative to consumption in the current situation. Above 5,000, it's a little bit different, and that's the reason why there is a change in the slope of the budget constraint, because for those areas here, we have more, we have to pay taxes if you want to consume in the future. So if we have savings leading to more than, or if we save more than $5,000, and for those areas here, we don't have to pay any taxes if we shift current consumption to future consumption. Yeah, and this is basically the budget constraint for this tax schedule. Okay, so exercise number 5. Two countries with comparable levels of income per capita each propose raising the amount of savings that can be tax deferred by $2,000. In Venti, the current maximum amount of savings that can be tax deferred is $2,000, while in Shale, the current limit is $5,000. In which country are savings likely to rise by more? In which country is the inframarginal response likely to be greatest? Which savings incentive will likely cost its government the most? Explain. So let me open a new page. So let us first again summarize the information that we have. So what do we have? So we have Venti, and in Venti, $2,000 can be tax deferred. So $2,000 of savings, of course. In Shale, $5,000 of savings can be tax deferred. And we have one more information, or two pieces of information we still have. The first one is that both countries are comparable or have comparable levels of income per capita. So let's simply say both countries are comparable. Yeah, just to generalize it a little bit. So they're comparable in terms of population, income distribution, and this kind of stuff. Yeah, so just to make sure that everything is comparable, and both countries want to increase deferral limit by $2,000. Okay, so this is all the information that we need. And now we can answer the questions. So the first one is, in which country do savings increase more? So since the both countries are comparable in general, it is more likely that savings increase more in venti than in shale. The reason for this is simply that the limit in shale has been very high before compared to venti. Therefore, there could have been a situation where the limit is so high that actually an additional $2,000 limit does not affect the individuals who are, so there are not so many individuals who are exactly at the boundary of $5,000. So it couldn't, like, it doesn't affect them. The change in relative price does not affect those individuals in venti, in shale rather than in venti. So there could be, or with a higher likelihood, there are more people in venti which get affected by a $2,000 limit increase on the amount that can be tax deferred than in shale, because in venti the limit increases from $2,000 to $4,000, and in shale it increases from $5,000 to $7,000. Yeah, so the reason here is then simply that in venti the limit increases from $2,000 to $4,000 in shale. The limit increases from $5,000 to $7,000. So with a higher likelihood, more people, more individuals in venti get affected by the increase than individuals in shale. Because there could be a lot of people who are um, there are more people between $2,000 and $4,000 which get affected by this limit increase than there are people who are between $5,000 and $7,000 and get affected by these this limit increase because we said or we assumed that the two countries are comparable. Yeah, so basically this increase of $2,000 induces a relative price change for more people in Venti relative than shale, and therefore it induces people in shale in Venti to um, increase their savings more rather than people in shale. So the second part of the question was, in which country is the inframarginal response largest? Just write this down. So largest inframarginal response. Inframarginal response. So it's larger in Venti. So the incentive in Venti induces a larger response than in shale, since more taxpayers in Venti will be able to move existing savings into a tax-deferred account. So since it's more likely that there are more individuals getting affected by an increase to from $2,000 to $4,000 than an increase from $5,000 to $7,000, the incentives in Venti are kind of more likely to induce a larger response than in scale. Yeah, so the inframarginal response is higher in Venti than in shale. So yeah, basically, I mean, it's already answered. The incentives in Venti induce a larger response in the scale, since yeah, so more taxpayers in Venti will be able to shift. Yeah, it should be shift here to a tax deferred account. Yeah, so more people in Venti, um, like there are more people in the $2,000 to $4,000 bracket with a higher likelihood than people in the $5,000 to $7,000 bracket, and hence more people will respond basically to this $2,000 increase. And then the final part was about the costs of the government, costs for the government. And so when we say costs, it's about now about costs in terms of the tax revenue and um, and welfare losses, of course, as well. So since less individuals in shale will be affected by the policy, the welfare loss will be lower. And as a consequence, the Venti plan will cost the government more. And this finishes this exercise.